Today on Shop Nation, we overbuilt some shop furniture, which is nothing new. Except this time it's not for you, it's for the miniature maker in your life. We're gonna build one of the most over-the-top pint-sized workbenches you've probably ever seen. Welcome back, everybody. We're here for another project. I'm Travis with Shop Nation, and today we're going to be making a miniature workbench. You see, my nephew Edward is turning 2 in a couple of weeks, and we want to make him a really cool Shop Nation workbench. Now, if you've seen previous Shop Nation videos, you know that when it comes to shop furniture, I tend to go kind of over the top, and this kid workbench is no different. So we're going to be incorporating some details and features that are probably not usually on kids' workbenches. But the good news is I do have plans available for this workbench, so when you're building your own, you can choose to elect to include or exclude whatever details you want. Now, when it comes to materials for the workbench, the first sort of over-the-top thing that I'm using is full-on butcher block for the top. Now, this stuff is not cheap, but if you go to a place like Lowe's or Home Depot, you can buy small pieces like this pre-finished that you can cut down to whatever size you want. Other options for the top could be just plain MDF, or you could even do a laminated version like I did when I did my desk build. The next cool feature are these metal pegboards. I was actually walking through Lowe's the other day and I found these, and I just think they're pretty slick looking 16 by 16 inch panel pegboards. So we're gonna be incorporating 2 of these on the backboard of the workbench to hang his fake tools. And then for the leg assemblies themselves, I'm using these 2 inch by 2 inch poplar lamination strips. And then finally, one of the more ridiculous details is the same under cabinet lighting that I used on the cabinet build, we're gonna incorporate into the bench so that the back pegboards can actually be lit. I told you it's kind of over the top. Sorry. So the first thing I had to do is knock down this butcher block to the right size. Be really careful here. I felt the block actually starting to bind as I was pushing it through, so I stopped, flipped it over, and finished from the other side. Kickback is no bueno. The leg assemblies are pretty simple, but just using my stop block here to batch out the parts. So I'm using dowels to reinforce these leg joints, and I can't recommend enough a little jig like this, which makes drilling your holes straight so much easier. You can also use a drill press here. Finally, adding all of the glue and dowels before clamping together. My brother-in-law Jim, aka Edward's dad, came by to give me a hand with the finishing. Here, just laying out all the parts for the back panel of the workbench. This little hood on top is where the lights will be hidden inside. I did need to modify the pegboard slightly for this design. I needed to cut off these little ears on the outer edges. A Dremel does the job. Heck, you could probably even just bend these back if you really needed to. Jim over here making some headway with the random orbit sander, cleaning up everything and prep for finishing. For the top, we're just going to seal it with some polyacrylic. Should be tough enough for a 2-year-old, time will tell. And then it's Shop Nation gray for the other pieces. We did do 2 coats for all finishes. Worth giving a shout out for the Graco sprayer and the pop-up paint booth. Sure does make painting easy. Okay, so it's the next day, all the finishes had a chance to dry, now it's time to put it all together. I'm going to first start by assembling the legs and the lower brace assembly. If you're following the plans, this is all done in one step. I frankly just forgot to do it. So yeah, there's that. But it's really not a big deal, you can do it either way. With that leg assembly knocked out, we can now flip over the workbench and join it to the underside. It's now time to finish the backboard of the workbench. This is where the metal pegboard and the lights need to be installed. These little LED strips are exactly the same as the ones I use for the ultimate cabinet build. They're cheap, they work great, and they allow you to string together as many or as few as you really need. I just need to add one small hole to the back to feed the wire out. With those now in place, I can now slide in the 2 metal pegboards and secure them to that backboard. So the last major step is to join the backboard to the workbench top itself. And then add those final details. For the first over-the-top detail, I'm adding a custom chrome badge with my nephew's name on it. Now this badge was 3D printed, primed, and then painted in a metallic silver paint. I really wanted this thing to look like his brand of workbench. I think it's a cool touch that adds a lot of personalization, and I know it's over the top. I get it. Now the next detail is composed of more 3D printed parts, and these are small pegboard adapters. Now of course you can use regular pegboard hangers that you can buy in any store, but if you have a rambunctious 2 or 3-year-old who likes to throw things at your head, I would much rather get hit in the head with one of these than a steel pegboard hanger. Your choice. All right, so that's a wrap on the WeSize workbench. And I know what you're thinking. Travis, they sell these things in the store. They're plastic, they're 40 bucks, they come with everything you need, and you don't have to break your back making a workbench. You're missing the point. You see, I wanted to use this project as an opportunity to inspire the next generation of maker, if possible. Sure, my nephew might forget this workbench 6 months after we give it to him. No harm, no foul. But it might just have a bigger influence on him than you think. He might cherish this thing and look back and say, my dad and my uncle made this. What can I go make? Or he might just cover it in crayon and tear it apart. You see, the point of shooting this video was 1, to document how I built the workbench so that if you wanted to make one yourself, you could. But 2, it's to reinforce the point that I try and take in my shop every time I build a project. And that is, if you take that one incremental step to make your project that much better, it makes a huge impact. And I think it's the same for this workbench. But if you do want to build your own, I have plans available and you can modify however you want. So I'd love to know what you thought about the project. If there's something that you thought I should have added to the workbench that I left off, please leave those in the comments. Trust me, there was no shortage of details I wanted to add to this workbench, but I had to kind of draw a line somewhere. It was getting kind of ridiculous. So real quick subscriber update. As of today, right now, we're at 53,806 subscribers. And if you're not subscribed and you've made it this far in the video, you might as well subscribe. You obviously like what Shop Nation is putting down. All right guys, I'll see you in the next project. And as always, continue to pursue shop greatness. Not just in your shop, also for the miniature makers in your life as well.